Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, cheers. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? Happy Memorial Day to all those that served and stuff. I mean, I know we're coming off the Memorial Day weekend. It was a light weekend for combat sports outside of the porn star. What did you say? The porn star knockout of Paige Van Zandt. Not Paige Van Zandt, the porn star. It's Elle Brooke, who's the porn star. I don't want anyone to think I'm
A
calling
couple
Paige.
fine, a couple fine
Yeah.
young ladies that were throwing boxing. Yeah, they ended up being a split draw, but that was pretty much the combat highlight of the weekend. I didn't catch up on a whole lot of stuff, doing a lot of stuff around the house.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up, Antoine? Yes, we did.
So,
It's good. It was a good weekend. And then this week we come back. UFC's in my neck of the woods in Newark, New Jersey, 40 minutes north, or sorry, 30 minutes north of me. In New Jersey's greatest city. So, uh,
they're rolling
we
the
got
dice, not the noon card this time, huh?
yeah,
They're going to do it when it's actually dark out.
yeah,
It's- but
yeah. Thankfully,
all
the
right,
Prudential Center is walking distance from New Jersey Transit. It is, usually when something's going on at Prudential Center, there's a heavy police presence, and as long as you stay within in the the line
yeah,
of lights,
it's
that's
most
there.
downtowns. I'm just
Yeah,
making a joke based off. I think the last time, I don't know if it was the last card there, but did
yeah,
remember they had the ABC card that started at like noon, and it was like,
yeah.
you know.
Now I was letting everyone know. I'm like, there's a reason it's that early. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, New Jersey, your neck of the woods, UFC 302.
Mm-hmm.
Um, feels like it's been a little while since we've had a UFC. I know I went to a concert during the last pay per view, so perhaps that's what's
Mm-hmm.
throwing off my UFC calendar here. Uh, pretty good card though. I'm
Yeah,
entertained by the top of the card here. Some names on the prelims as well, but I'd say the top five cards have or top five fights have a lot of entertainment value in them.
yeah. Definitely a pay-per-view worthy event. I'm glad they're doing it in New Jersey. Um, Before we even get into the card, though, I just reposted and reshared my the article that, because if you guys remember, they had announced newly designed gloves that's going to be that are officially supposed to be used at this event. So I reposted the article for you guys that want to see it over at mymmanews.com. Um, because I mean, we a lot of folks forget news like this when you have other shit going on in combat sports and announcements and breaking news or whatever. So I'm hoping enough folks remember, because if there is an eye poke that happens or something happens that's due to the new gloves, people are gonna make a lot of noise about it. Hopefully, the media in attendance will ask questions, or ask for data or anything like that if anything happens. And not that I'm wishing anything to happen, but we do have a different class of media on site at events these days too. So
I
um
mean, I mean, we say we don't want anything to happen. Now, while we're gonna make picks for this fight, like if I could rub a crystal ball and have all five main card fights end in eye pokes, I think it would be the most hilarious moment in the history of MMA with their new gloves. But with that said, obviously not for the paying customer, but the hilarity that would ensue would obviously be funny, considering there's still a little bit of confusion on the whole glove situation. I know you've written stuff on it, and we're gonna have to see them in action,
yeah,
because it's like they took some parts, but they didn't exactly take the replicas per se from Bellator and
yeah, and
or
that's
Pride.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I wrote that piece for my MMA news, I didn't mention, I mean, I briefly mentioned it, but I went into more detail with the Bellator glove design from 2014. And if anyone that subscribes to the newsletter that I write, I kind of like added that into the article. So if you want a full feature thing on the glove design about the Bellator gloves versus the UFC gloves, and how the design was kind of there. And I mean, they already kind of had like the mold and the design from Everlast that made them for Bellator. That they're pretty much the same thing. I mean, if you look at, if again, it's in my newsletter, but if you look at them, they're pretty much the same thing. And I guess, I mean, maybe it was the sour grapes or whatever, because if you remember in 2014, you wouldn't even hear a commentator say Bellator on a broadcast. They would say other promotion or something like that. Whereas now with the entrance of Chandler and a couple of other guys from Bellator, now they'll say it, especially since Bellator is technically no longer with the whole PFL, absorbing them. Everybody calls it PFL Tour now. Seems to be the popular name for what it's become. But did you see they re-signed Douglas Lima and then got rid of Gegard Mousasi?
Did they actually? I didn't see that. I saw they got rid of Gegard. I didn't realize that they.
They announced they re-signed Douglas Lima, which was I was
Interesting.
like, yeah. I'm like, okay,
Basically, they gave him a pay cut. It sounds like then, because
yeah.
um, but that's interesting. There seems to be a lot of I don't know, man. I'm not really behind what's going on there. Don Davis, I'm not a big fan of until he does something. I get that they're doing some stuff, but it sure seems like I don't know. It's just not. It just doesn't seem to be clicking when you got fighters like Cyborg and
Mhm.
Musasi now getting released. I mean, hopefully that opens the door to him to either go to Japan and have a nice little end there, or come back to the UFC and have some good matchups with some of the guys. I still think he's competitive a lot against a lot of the non-heavy wrestler types per se, but
Mhm.
we'll have to see what happens with that one. Um, yeah, and we'll see what happens, obviously, and then with these gloves, we'll see where that goes for UFC 302.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing, before we get, I mean, we're going to look at the card real quick, but just some other news that crossed my eye. I had a busy day today with Spectation Sports, but I did see other news pop up. That was one, the Douglas Lima thing. The other thing was, it looks like Shannon Knapp did an interview with Sirius XM, and we might get some either an updated or more clarification on where they've been and where we can watch them soon enough. I don't know if it was announced during the series. I don't have Sirius, so I'd have to wait till they put it on YouTube or whatever, or if I have a chance to watch it. But it's definitely good news coming for Invicta soon, and I'm hoping. If you guys remember when we talked about one being on Prime Video, I said that I wouldn't be surprised if Prime adds Invicta to their lineup of live events, being that it looks like, with the ESPN deal and the UFC might be up in the air. Everybody's looking to kind of feature combat sports more these days. Sean Merriman's got his own video platform where his promotions like the thing for it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Invicta wound up on Amazon Prime too. I'm hoping that's where they wind up because it's something that a lot of people have, and it's just more eyeballs. It seems to be working pretty well for one. I mean, there's more people that know about one championship than Bellator and PFL. That's for sure. As far as when I talk to people about combat sports, they know about one champ. More folks talk to me about one versus PFL, and these aren't people that watch the sport regularly. At least out here, about the people I talk to. So, interesting news to look forward to with them.
yeah, they announced an event for return event for June.
Mm.
It is Olga Rubin versus Talita Bernardo. Um, let's see, it's returning to Kansas City. I don't see an exact. Oh, June 28th. So the night before the Conor McGregor fight, they'll be in Kansas City. Nothing about a broadcast yet, though. I
Mm-hmm.
think they said that's waiting to come. So it's good to see that they exist still. You never quite know anymore, especially because they had went kind of silent for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good to see. Also, some good news that came my way for UFC 303. I kind of got one of the matchups I was really, really praying for here, and I got Michael Venom Page versus Aaron Machado Gary
Oh, that's what.
getting added to that card.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
Antoine just asked about too. Yeah.
there it is. I mean, I'm happy to see Jamal Hill stay on the card, just because anytime you have world class fighters on a card, I like to watch them fight, no matter who it is. Oberg should bring a good challenge. Uh, both fighters are going to come in there and swinging. So I don't necessarily have a winner in that fight, or in the MVP fight. But I love the fight, man. And for a card that was lacking a solid main card fight, still think you could use one more. But I don't know. That might be wishful thinking at this point. But to get that fight on this card and it not push to the 304 card in
Mhm.
London, really, really made me happy as somebody attending the event, because I got to have 3-4 fights that I can just dig in and
Yeah.
really, really get my money's worth.
Yeah,
Everything
that's
else
a
is
good one.
entertainment, but I can dig into that one, and I'll be rooting for MVP,
Yeah.
Bellator guy. But it's just going to be fun to watch him perform again. And you never know what you're going to get. I mean, it could be a slow fight, it could be boring, or we could watch somebody's skull get crushed in. I mean, that's the amazing thing with MVP is, he can go from 0 to 1,000, really, really quick. So
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I don't know if you guys noticed. He started. I don't know how long his YouTube channel's been around, but he started. He started like putting technique up on there, and which I'm surprised that he's doing now that he's in the UFC. Usually, I mean, thinking strategically, I would think you'd want to keep all that stuff in house until like towards maybe the end of your contract or something, when you build more of a UFC following. But he's got a pretty big following already. But some of the stuff he put in there, I mean, on the instructional kind of footwork thing he put in there, I'm like, you're giving away the secrets, dude. Like people are gonna, your opponents are gonna watch this. But I do know, he's somebody that's always evolving. I mean, and it'd be interesting. That's a really good fight, man. And I'm like you said, I'm glad. There's always those fights on the pay per view that you're like, man, this is. I know there's a main event, but there's always that other fight that you're really dialed in on, and this looks like for you and I, it looks like that's going to be this fight for that event.
yeah, and it's kind of the old guard. I mean, it's kind of weird to call MVP the old guard because
Mm-hmm.
he just got to the UFC, but I feel like it's kind of the UFC trying to build Gary's name off of a Bellator guy who's got some name value. Um, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if Venom Page has a exciting performance on a card with, what, 2 million eyeballs on it, who
Yeah.
knows how many, it's going to be hard to keep him away from the top of the 170-pound division, especially since, if Leon Edwards beats Muhammad, I feel like we start to get a logjam up there with potential rematch. He's talking about going and fighting out of, at one, uh, you know, uh, whatever, fight McGregor and stuff, but McGregor's got his hands full with Michael Chandler, so we'll see how that all unfolds. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was just really happy to see a good fight added to that card, um, and it should set up a good end of June.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the end of June, so why don't we kick it off with the 1st of June, which is UFC 302, live from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. He-
Makachev versus Poirier. I mean, that's the. I haven't even looked at the whole card because I know there's so many changes to it. Like Nolan King was going crazy announcing all the flip flops of it, and I was just like, dude, you know what? I'm not even gonna pay attention anymore until fight week. But which I'm kind of glad I did, because looking at the main card, it looks like it's gonna be a fun night. Really quick, just because for the Jersey folks, as far as I'm aware, it looks like all we got as far
Mickey
as the
Gall.
Jersey, Mickey Gall, which is kind of like, you know,
Kind of the Jersey Shore representation.
yeah, like I'm just okay, but yeah,
With that said, the people of New Jersey will be treated to international
yeah,
MMA fighters on the main card. Main card kicks off, you know, fun fight. Randy Brown, nice little run right now against Zaleski dos Santos, one of the former Caposa Kings of Violence. Um, this fight's got banger written all over it.
mhm,
I'm gonna go with Randy Brown to win. He's on a nice little
yeah,
couple wins. A couple of his losses, he's listed at 18-5, but a couple of those losses are aging well. In Jack Del Medellina and Bilal Muhammad are a couple of your losses, along with Nico Price, who's also on the card.
mm,
So you know, a couple of those have aged well. He seems to be kind of coming into his own in the last couple of fights, so I'm gonna go with him. Um, Obviously, the Brazilian
mhm.
brings the violence, but I'll take Randy Brown to win. I'm just going to say I'll go TKO third round. I think these guys are going to be a little bit of rock'em sock'em, and
Yeah,
I think we're going to see some violence in this fight.
yeah. I mean, Rand Brown's minus 175 favorite. I know Dos Santos has an experience. Looks like he's got experience, but the leg reach advantage of just the general reach advantage, high end reach advantage of Brown seems to. I mean, he's got that wiry style that that I like, so I'm picking him as well. Heavyweight bout: Jalton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov.
Yeah, Almeida coming off of the loss to Curtis Blades in a fight he was winning early, and then the tides turned. Um, Romanov coming off of a win against Blagoy Ivanov, but prior to that had a couple lackadaisical showings. I think the picture here is doing him some justice. Unless the stuff I'm seeing is not accurate, it doesn't look like he's in tremendous shape. Speaking of Romanov, um, I'm not real sure what the pathway to, Almeida's the grappler, but to
Mhm.
be a grappler, you got to, you don't want to be under Romanov. Romanov's also a grappler, and if he
Yeah.
comes in at 280 pounds,
See, this is,
um, I don't know how exactly, what your pathway to victory is. Although
mm,
Almeida is a big favorite, I think he just out muscles Romanov. I think Romanov's probably, unless he comes in surprisingly in shape, which I haven't seen.
mm,
I think he probably gasses early. Almeida does this thing, and probably, I don't know if he'll submit him, but I'll say he TKOs from like, mount. Basically gets
yeah,
mount and ground and pound. Um,
yeah,
he really reminds me of like a old, like, I don't know, for the old heads, Carlos Barreto. Very
mhm,
similar to me. Kind of good front runner when things turn, struggles a little bit, like we saw that in the Blades fight in his last
mhm,
fight. But heavy grappler with some decent strikes. So I'm gonna go with Almeida, just out of pure, being a better physical specimen and holding up better. If Romanov for some reason comes in a ripped, 250 at the weigh-ins, but all the stuff I've seen looks like he's closer to 300
mhm.
than 250.
Yeah, no, so far we're in agreement. I mean, we're both picking the favorites here. Kevin Holland versus Mikhail. Well, I ain't gonna try to say that last name. Alexijuk. We're gonna say Alexijuk.
That'll work because I wasn't gonna try it either.
Yeah.
Um, it's a tough fight to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where Holland's at anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's already admitted he's in for the bag. He's
Mm.
taking this fight again on later notice.
And
Um,
this should answer Antoine's question about the matchup because we're looking at it right now. Um,
I didn't
yeah,
see his.
no,
Can you put this question back up? It
yeah.
flashed.
He asks, how do you feel about Kevin returning to middleweight? They're giving him a good matchup, and Mikhail and I agree all the pay per view fights are bangers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just typed down, said right there. I think it is a good matchup for Holland, um, and he's got to get a win at some point because the gatekeeper thing only works if you
Hmm.
occasionally beat some guys. You can't, you can't be on a, you just can't lose to to a lot of these guys. So I think Holland wins. I think he's a better fighter overall, um, and I think his mentality's got to be it's time to pick up a win and
Yeah,
get back on a track there. So I'll go with Kevin Holland. I'm just gonna go with decision though. Uh, I don't really know where else. You know,
yeah,
I mean, he might submit him. He could do anything. Kevin Holland's talented enough to beat him any way there is, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where his head is. I don't know. You figure he's getting paid decent money to take a last minute fight again. You know,
Hmm.
we'll kind of just have to see where it is. And I'd like to see him go out there and smash the dude and have that serious look on his face and not just kind of the
Yeah.
chuckle. That I just got beaten 62 seconds, or you know what I mean. I don't want to see
Yeah, I
nothing
mean, there
like
there
that.
comes a point where you have to stop. I mean, I know him and Dana White are cool with each other and stuff like that, but there comes a point, especially he's not he's young, so it's like you should there's got to be a point where it's like, okay, I got to stop being the company man and pick up some wins. So as far as like the feelings of the matchup, I agree with Antoine too. It's good the return to middleweight against someone like Mikhail is probably it's probably a good way for him to get back on track to focus and like getting the bags of money for taking those bouts. Eventually, that's going to do wear on your body too, especially in a sport like this. So, um, and he's a favorite minus 265. So far we're picking all favorites here, and this one's a head scratcher for me. This matchup because Sean Strickland versus Paul Costa. With both these guys, it's like, which version of them are we going to get come fight night? That's always my question with both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we're kind of, while we say what version, I do feel like
Hmm.
they've kind of morphed into what they are. I feel like with Strickland, you're going to get the stand up, you know, what that we've seen the last two fights against Duplessis and against Israel.
Hmm.
Um, so it's going to be compact. It's going to be fairly safe. He's going to kind of box. I feel like with Costa, we're just going to get those 10-second spurts. We're going to get
Mm-hmm.
about 3 or 4 10-second spurts where you're like, oh my God, this guy is, the modern day axe murderer. And then he's going to get countered and step back and
Mm-hmm.
slow down for 3 minutes. I feel like that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
That doesn't, to me, Costa's style is not good for winning decisions. Um, Short of getting a 10-8 or really hurting somebody bad, I feel like he's not going to be active enough. I think Strickland's style is going to allow him to statistically fill up the stat sheet, and I think that'll be enough to win a decision. This is a 3-round fight.
Mm-hmm.
In a 3-round fight, I'm gonna take Strickland to win a decision. It might be 2 rounds to 1, but I think he's just gonna have enough output. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to see Costa go out there and hit a wheel kicker, some crazy shit that he throws out there. But I know it's just going with the favorites, but I got
Yeah.
it. I just think that Strickland has more. I think he has the better ability just to outbox him to a decision and just
Yeah.
be.
Plus, he's also got the reach advantage as far as the length according to these stats here, 76 to Costa 72, -245 favorites. So we're both so far all favorites on this card. The main event: Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Um, I don't know if you want to take this first.
I mean, I'm agreeing with the odds makers in the winner. I think the odds are insane if that's anywhere near accurate at minus
Mm-hmm.
675 and plus 490 for Poirier. If
Mm-hmm.
that was the case, I'd be putting money on Poirier left and right if I was in Las Vegas at those odds because I think he has a very good chance to win this fight. Um, However, I just don't think he will. I think he'll have his moments. I think Islam's going to take him down, and I think he just drowns him on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Until I see something different, I mean, he's 25-1. We saw Khabib go 29-0 with basically the same, not the same, but the same team. I mean, Islam's a little bit more of a finisher than Khabib was, a little more violent, but basically the base seems like it's the same. Get guys down and whereas Habib would, drown them and physically just drain the shit out of them and work for
Mm-hmm.
position. Islam tends to go a little bit more for the beat it down, and I feel like this is Poirier's last shot at it. I do think that there's always a guillotine, and he's a great boxer. If he's able to avoid takedowns and keep it on the feet, then yes, he can pick them apart. But I I can't, I mean, between the two guys, they're combined, what, 54-1. I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta go with him until I see him show extreme weakness. I know he had that loss early in his career where he was knocked out, uh, but I think to Martins, but I'm not, I'll go with Islam to win by fourth round finish.
Mm. I mean, I want Dustin to win. So my problem is he seems to be entertaining retirement in his thoughts a little too often. So that's a little concerning as far as like, I mean, not that I don't think he's not going to show up to win because he always does. I do think he's got, because of his boxing, I think if there's a way he can stop with, which is probably not, why the odds are the way they are, but if he can stop Makhachev's like pressure with the takedowns, and he can find a way to kind of like dirty box and you know light him up with the inside, boxing from the inside the way that he does. I think that's a way he can hurt him, especially if he catches him with something he doesn't see coming on the chin. Um, I think that's his best chance to win. I know the popular meme for Poirier, because he talks about jumping the guillotine. You just mentioned it too. If he does lock that in and he can get it, I think that would be. I wonder, like they do prop bets. I wonder what the bet is. A submission win for Dustin must be like plus 3,000 or something
I think
like
I
that.
saw plus 2,500 to
Yeah.
win by
So
guillotine. I don't know if that was just a joke or what, but it's probably somewhere around that. But I don't think it's
yeah.
terrible because
No.
he could stun him and then while in a scramble catch him in a
Hmm.
guillotine. He's got a great guillotine. I mean, at 25-1 odds, I'll put 10 bucks down to win 250. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it just and at 4 plus 490 to win. I mean, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
those odds are too heavy. I'd have Islam somewhere in the probably like 290 minus
Yeah.
300, but minus 670. I mean, it just shows either there's massive. I wonder what the opening odds were for this, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. The fight's not in Vegas; it's in New Jersey, um, which I suppose will maybe not allow the odds to flex quite as much because it's not a lot of people run into a casino to bet on it, right? Although Atlantic City, they have all the same sports betting in Atlantic City
Well,
as Vegas.
yeah, yeah, and that the thing is, betting in New Jersey, online betting is New Jersey is one of the biggest money. A lot of people don't know this because there's a reason. If you turn on a television in New Jersey, you're going to see about 5 or 6 ads for various ways to sign up for some sports betting app because it's legal to bet online in New Jersey. So I wouldn't be surprised if it changed. There's literally talking about where it's at. Newark. If you go to Newark Penn Station, not New York, Newark Penn Station, because
Mhm.
they're both called Penn Station, there's ads for FanDuel, DraftKings all over the train station. So I would imagine more so, especially with an event like this, that betting is so popular. So yeah, you can't sleep. There's so many clutch points. I'm trying to think of all the FanDuel, DraftKings, all of them literally have some agreement with the Atlantic City casinos, and because they're interstate, you're allowed to bet anywhere in New Jersey as long as they have an app on the phone. And there are so many MGM, there's so many. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see fluctuation in the odds.
You bring a good point. That's something I wasn't 100% aware of, but now that you point that out, it does seem
Hmm.
like New Jersey is on a lot of the little small lettering on all the gambling commercials that
Yeah,
I see, and I don't know what maybe it seems like New Jersey definitely was one of the ones that got all that stuff going.
yeah, yeah. It's one of the thing. Just personal note, guys, I freelance covering the sport. I've interviewed with 3 or 4 companies in the last. During COVID, I interviewed with companies and that's how I know they're the ones that gave me those statistics about online betting in New Jersey. It's one of the hotbeds of online this for the state. If you talk about businesses in New Jersey, for some reason, because of our location, I guess, to New York, in the tri-state area, online betting is pretty big here in New Jersey. There's a lot of degenerates in New Jersey, so yeah, so it's a big deal. So yeah, and the UFC, there's 2 UFC gyms near me that I know about. Might have some news on that in about a month or so, personal news, but I'll save that for when it actually happens. But yeah, so like the UFC has a presence in New Jersey. Everybody knows MMA's history with New Jersey. So there's a lot of fans in the state that are dialed in for this event.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's this Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern main card. I believe it is a 6:30 uh, p.m. Eastern prelim start.
As long as we keep all the fights, I think they have. Yeah, you're right. 6:30 on Fight Pass. Prelims, Fight Pass prelim 6:30. ESPN2 prelims are featured bout is Cesar Almeida versus Roman Kopylov, which I find odd. Um, I would have thought more Nico Price and Alex Morono or somebody else would have been more some. But anyway, that's ESPN2, and then they jump into the main, the obviously 10 o'clock Eastern for the main card pay-per-view.
That's it. Enjoy the fights, everybody. Until then, you can check out the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night. Enjoy the UFC pay per view this weekend.
Peace.